What does Daredevil do now that he's got blood on his hands? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an iRate review, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you need to go back to the comic book shop for or not. Make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single week. The book that I want to talk about right now is Daredevil #2 from the team of Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto, or Checchetto, however you say his name. I am so butchering it, but I'm not going to be butchering this issue because overall Daredevil #1 was a really great drive into the character from the new creative team, and #2 looks to be even better. At the conclusion of issue #1 of Daredevil from Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto, we find that Daredevil is now a murderer. And in issue #2, we open up with Cole North, the brand new transferred detective that is tasked with hunting the devil of Hell's Kitchen. And as we're inside the kind of boxing gymnasium that's at the local precinct, we get a little bit more backstory and who his current partner is before we start diving too deep into that. But we know that he's determined and he's there not to make friends. He is ready to solve the case. And then we kind of transition over to Foggy Nelson, the best friend of Matt Murdock, and we get a voiceover from Matt himself as he runs through Foggy's thought process. He thinks that Matt should turn himself in. He thinks that they can fight this. Maybe they'll even let him testify and keep the mask on. Matt can predict everything about what his best friend's going to do and ultimately feels like he's wrong. So as he sneaks into Foggy's office and they carry on the conversation talking about what's going on, there had to be some kind of setup. Somebody dirty. Somebody killed that guy after Matt left him on the side of the street as he fled from the fire that was created by the conflict. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough. Daredevil, Matt Murdock, has to go out and find the person responsible for giving him this bad name. He doesn't want to put up the Daredevil costume. He doesn't want to sit on the sidelines. People need to see that Daredevil is there and that Daredevil is innocent. He is still taking down bad guys, protecting the people of New York City, particularly Hell's Kitchen, and is doing his job as Daredevil. So he tracks down the doctor that treated Leo Carraro, the man that died at his hand, and using his superhuman senses as the doctor spills the beans on everything that happens. He had a specific injury to his skull. There was nothing that they could do when they were prepping him for surgery. When they got to him, it was too late. There was no sense of lies, no increase in heart rate besides the stress that he was feeling from having Daredevil's hand at his throat. This is the truth that was coming from this doctor. He wasn't dirty. He has nothing to hide. And in reality, he blames Daredevil. He's treated tons of people that have come into conflict with the Horned Devil of Hell's Kitchen and found that he was precise, almost surgical in nature when he was trying to debilitate these individuals. He uses violence like a scalpel and breaks people down, but they've always had a sense to recover. But this time, Daredevil was sloppy. He messed up and a man was dead because of it. And he could do better. He could have been, with his capabilities, a doctor. But Matt doesn't want to hear this. He thinks that there's a conspiracy and there are things underway that are going to put that to the forefront. While Cole North is also trying to figure out exactly what's going on, he visits Mayor Wilson Fisk's office, and while they did have an appointment, they just barge right into the office to confront Wilson themselves. Welcomed by the mayor of New York City, once the kingpin of crime, now the most powerful man in one of the most powerful cities in the world, we actually find that Cole North is trying to resist his various urges. He's known about the kingpin, and people outside of New York have wanted to slap handcuffs on him for ages, and now he's standing face to face, sizing up the mammoth of a man that now runs New York City. And he tries not to feel intimidated, even though Wilson in particular has some knowledge that's going to keep him on his toes. Cole didn't go there to just ask some questions. He could have done that over the phone. He came to size the man up, see what he was made of, but in reality, he just smells like meat. And that means he's a man just like everyone else. And while this conversation's going on, we have this kind of meeting between the lawyer and Mayor Fisk after the detectives leave the office, where if he had had anything to do with Daredevil, he would be doing cartwheels in the street, celebrating his achievement. But as Daredevil listens on from a gargoyle high above the street, he doesn't sense any lies. No tension, no hiding. Wilson Fisk is telling the truth. And this means that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is going to have to face some very serious self-imposed consequences. He may have done something unforgivable. So while he goes to visit the father, the one that we've actually seen extensively throughout issue #1 that helped raise him as a child, he finds that he's not there. He's dealing with church business. So he sits down with Sister Elizabeth, and instead of having a traditional confession, he simply talks to her, going over his matters of faith, and what he feels he committed is possibly unforgivable. However, the sister doesn't agree. All he ever wanted to do is help people, and that's what the sister encourages him to do. help people. He wanted to stay out on the streets. He didn't want to put away the Daredevil costume, and he wanted to give people a message that Daredevil was out there protecting people. He was not the murderer that the news organizations or that the mayor would say that he is. His vigilantism helps individuals, and while he is precise in his kicks to the solar plexus, making sure that he cuts off the artery just enough to help this person pass out and not put any kind of permanent damage on him, he doesn't necessarily just see the fear in the criminals of New York City. He sees the fear in the faces of the people he's protecting, which is unfortunately something that he can't really deal with. If he can't convince those people, if he can't convince Foggy, his best friend, how could he convince somebody like Luke Cage or Jessica Jones? How do the villains feel now that things have gotten lethal, now that death is on the table? Are they going to band together and create another level of recourse that is going to tear the city apart? These are things that Daredevil doesn't necessarily know about, but he knows that he's missing something. He has to go back to the crime scene, figure out exactly what was going on. What did he skip over? What piece of information was there that he did not get? And the cops have the same idea. Daredevil throws his billy club, hitting Fred in the shoulder, his gun going off into the air. Cole North rushes him as a roundhouse to the side from Daredevil takes him off his feet. The billy club extends, the grappling hook coming out. Cole pulls out his gun and bang! We see the body of Daredevil, Matt Murdock, laying in the street, police tape flying around in a very dramatic fashion as he calls in the fact that Daredevil has been shot and is incapacitated. And that's where we're going to pick up in issue number 3, where we see Daredevil being brought in by the police, possibly having to escape with a hole in his side. We don't necessarily know about that, but one thing that we do know is that Chip Zdarsky is working hard to bring Daredevil down to his lowest level, beyond just having the Kingpin being the mayor of New York City, the most powerful man in, well, one could argue the entirety of the United States. We see him at his lowest. He has currently put a war on vigilantes. Daredevil is responsible for the murder and death as far as the public as well as a variety of different people are concerned. Even his best friends question what's happened because Matt wasn't 100% on his game. When you combine that with the entire Catholic guilt theme that's going along with this and his whole disillusionment with how he's portraying Daredevil, this makes a really interesting story and a journey to start off with. I think Chip Zdarsky is doing a really good job unfolding this story. As far as the art from Checchetto, it is the best part about the book beyond just the subject matter that Chip Zdarsky is dealing with. There's a lot of drama in a variety of different pages. He deals well with the facial emotions and the way that people express themselves. The intimidation and the smooth calm of Wilson Fisk is something that I really welcome. And then ultimately the questioning nature of Matt Murdock when you see him without the Daredevil mask is great. It's just a really good portrayal of that character. And then when he's in costume, the dynamic nature of the character moving across the rooftops and fighting is one that I really appreciate as well. Overall, Daredevil number 2 and Daredevil as in general as a series is something that I would consider a can't-miss comic book amongst people that are fans of good superhero fiction. You can totally hold off until the first trade paperback comes out, but you might not want to do that. But I want to know what you guys think, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.